China, 2000 BC. A man was writing. His name, Sun Tzu. The book he was writing, on the final page, entitled The Art of War. Then, suddenly, his house caught fire. Lightning had struck it. Fleeing from his house, he ran to the well. When he returned, his house was gone. Not even ashes of the remains. Only a burnt-out husk. Though he searched, his book was nowhere to be found. Somewhere in another world, at an unknown location in the northern hemisphere, there was a training camp for the kingdom of Adzu, where only the best of the best trained, under their commander, Tim. At this moment, Tim was returning to his house. He went to go take a nap, but on his way inside to his bed, he noticed a book. Picking up the book, he went to his table to read it, and after inspection, it was entitled The Art of War by Sun Tzu. At an outpost to the east, 5 lone soldiers were patrolling. 2 went out to survey the area, hearing rumors of an attack that would strike any day now. While Luke and McGrave were out searching, they came under an ambush. Quickly taking cover, they started to fight. Heavily outnumbered, they fought their best, but being 10-1, they stood no chance. As Luke's corpse hit the ground, McGrave fled. He had to warn someone, anyone. The next morning, as the rays of day scorched across the landscape, McGrave hobbled into Tim's encampment, making it into his house. Once Tim addressed him, McGrave informed him that there was an enemy attack on the way, a surprise attack from the neighboring kingdom of the Nords. McGrave told Tim that the outpost had already been crushed, and that McGrave could only warn Tim. He said all of this before collapsing. With this knowledge, Tim gathered his recruits and went to halt the advance of the enemy. Tim was on a walk in the woods when he thought of his plan of attack. While thinking of this, his mind wandered to the art of war. In fact, he remembered one key point that was mentioned. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country. Its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. Chapter 11. The Art of War. After remembering this piece of military knowledge, Tim realized he needed to know the lay of the land. And in doing so, he remembered an even more important quote, a method also told by Sun Tzu. Thus, we shall be unable to turn natural advantage to account unless we make use of local guides. Chapter 7. The Art of War. Given the aid of this advice, Tim immediately set out to find a nearby village who would know the natural land. After arriving at a nearby friendly town, the chieftain, Balza, came out to meet Tim. Tim asked him what did he know of the enemies. Balza replied, they have 3 settlements. The first of the settlements was the Vanguard. It was a disorganized, unorderly camp with only a 12-man squad. It would be pretty easy to take them down. The next settlement was much more heavily entrenched, with many more men than we had. We would have to be covert, stealthy, and indirect with our methods when taking this settlement. And the main assault force, over 70 men. There would be no way to take this down directly. Tim would have to use his most clever tactics, striking where the enemy was weak, and fleeing where the enemy was strong. Deep inside the settlement, their leader, the self-proclaimed God King, Zinar, rested with his elite guard, where he waited for those who would dare oppose him. The first encampment. Tim and his warband marched through the day, and after setting up camp at nighttime, Tim started thinking of his plan. He considered the art of war. If equally matched, we can offer battle. Chapter 3, The Art of War. Dawn, the next day. Tim's plan of attack was simple, a direct assault. With our superior numbers, it should be an easy fight. Tim himself would not be participating in this battle, as he would act as a lookout in case of enemy reinforcements. So, his soldiers charged in, and it caused a bloodbath. With superior numbers and superior weaponry, it was a slaughter, a massacre, an overall bloodbath. After minutes of fighting, the enemies eventually broke rank and fled. With the corpses of their enemies as trophies, the men's morale was extremely high. However, there was a loss. One of Tim's knights had been snuck up on and shot directly through the heart with a bow. So with a steel determination in their eye, Tim's warband continued to the second encampment, burning the first to the ground, leaving nothing of their tracks except for the ashes of their enemies. Tim equipped his armor on the way to the second encampment. This encampment would be much harder to take down, being much more fortified and with more enemies than the last one. Tim would have to rely on the art of war once again. And as Sun Tzu once said, all warfare is based on deception. Chapter 1, The Art of War. Tim, using his knowledge of warfare through deception, came up with a plan, using one of the concepts presented by Sun Tzu. The concept being, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near. Chapter 1, The Art of War. Using these principles, Tim sent 2 archers in to draw out the enemy's knights and distract them, pull them away for a bit. After one of Tim's soldiers was incapacitated, the enemy knights gave chase, and under the cover of darkness, he used his cover, created by his archers, to sneak in with the rest of his warband. Tim slowly got behind the enemy archers, planning to ambush them. And after breaching the enemy fortress, he made a mad dash, slaughtering them before they could even react. With the archers dealt with, Tim hid inside their houses and sprung a trap on the knights when they came back, once again slaughtering them with an ambush. With the entire encampment dealt with, Tim and his warband took shelter in the fortress of stone. What once served as an asset to his enemies now served him as an ally. The main assault force. With the second encampment defeated, Tim only had the main assault force to deal with. The main assault force being the largest obstacle. He would have to use all of the principles learned from the art of war, as well as new ones. Ideas such as hold out bait to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. Chapter 1, The Art of War. Tim would have to use bait to draw the enemies out of their fortress. And to do that, he would have to use another principle. The idea that Sun Tzu presents is, appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. Chapter 6, The Art of War. After arriving at the main force's base, Tim sent out a scouting party, and this scouting party sent back valuable information. About half of the main force was out looking for Tim's party. They had received word that Tim had taken out the first 2 encampments, and were searching, hunting for him. This meant that Tim only had to deal with half of the main force, a massive boon. And so, Tim initiated his plan. He sent 2 archers through a shallow part of the river to go in and bait in the enemy forces. This would be a necessary sacrifice. And so, the archers acted as bait. The entire fortress fell upon them. But they succeeded in their duties, leading the enemy forces to the river. What the enemy forces did not know at this time was that Tim had concocted a plan, inspired by Sun Tzu. When an invading force crosses a river in its onward march, do not advance to meet it in midstream. It will be best to let half the army to get across, and then deliver your attack. Chapter 9: The Art of War. The soldiers rushed across the water, having seen one of Tim's knights vengeful for blood. But what they had not realized was that Tim had ambushed them, refitting many of his soldiers with crossbows, taking out a large portion of their forces. Seizing their advantage, Tim, along with his knights, rushed across the river to get a surprise drop on the enemy. This was the perfect time to strike, while the enemy was weak and no one else knew Tim was here. Without hesitation, Tim descended on the last of the enemy forces, catching them in an ambush, slaughtering them. Then stormed the gates of the stronghold. But before he could finish storming, Zenar came out to parley. Tim, acting as the negotiator for the kingdom of Adzu, discussed with Zenar, and they decided that the terms of parley would be negotiated in a nearby field.